Hey, this is Glover Teixeira, UFC light heavyweight champion.
Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, fight family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenek, and welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi everybody from American Top.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the entire UFC 270 Ngannou vs. Gane fight card. I'm going to give you my pick, and I'm going to give you my DraftKings insight. We're going to talk about who might be priced too high, who's priced too low, where there's some value, and who will score well for you in your DraftKings lineup. Don't forget to join our free DraftKings League, because if you win it, you will get $50 from us. So we have a free DraftKings League, free DraftKings contests every single week at wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Jump in, enter. They're 100% free. If you win the contest, I will send you $50. CASHAPP, PayPal, Venmo. I'll send you $50. The only catch is you need to be a member of the channel. So click the join button under this video, become a member, participate for free, and try to get that free $50 from me. What I've done here is I have sorted the DraftKings, slate by most expensive to least expensive. So let's work our way down. We have Hani Barcelos versus Victor Henry. This fight has been rescheduled. This was originally supposed to be at UFC Vegas 45 in December. It's now at UFC 270. And what's nice about that is the market opened up. People came in. They bet money. DraftKings established a price. Things change, the fight is withdrawn, and then they put it back out and they correct themselves. So you can see what happened. And what happened here is Hani Barcelos, betting wise, was a minus 220 favorite. Now he's a massive 500 favorite on most books. So the market has said Hani Barcelos should win this fight. And I absolutely agree. So Hani Barcelos, incredibly well-rounded. He's literally good everywhere. He's got great hands, good wrestling, good BJJ. He's coming off this decision loss to Timur Valiev. He had 2 knockdowns, and he defended 6 takedowns against the nasty wrestler. He scored 52 points in what was honestly a very questionable loss. So it should have been 82 because he should have gotten that W. And $8,800 to score 82 points, that's pretty close to worth it. Victor Henry, he is making his UFC debut, so we're not going to have any data on him. And he's a really fun striker. He's got a wide variety of attacks. He'll come forward and throw everything, literally everything. He's got a ton of variety, super, exciting, and just his willingness to throw things out there makes him fun. He's got power, and he could absolutely catch Hani Barcelos here, but I do think Hani Barcelos dominates this fight. I honestly think there's a stoppage here. I could be wrong, but I think there's a stoppage, and I also think Hani Barcelos will use wrestling. And if we look at the fights that he wrestled, 2 takedowns against Taha, 2 against Nurmagomedov, and this is Said Nurmagomedov, 2 against Gutierrez. So the wrestling is there, and when he wrestles, he puts up some decent numbers, 96, 112, 113. I think that the striking exchanges, he's not going to really enjoy them because Victor Henry's a little tough and weird to deal with. So he's going to go right to the wrestling, shoot some takedowns, get it done, heavy grappling. I like Hani Barcelos, $9,300. Honestly, probably worth it. Michel Pajeda next up at $9,100. This is another, so Michel Pajeda has a new opponent. So the fight hasn't moved, but his opponent, Andre Filo, is also making his UFC debut, taking this on short notice. So no stats on Filo here, but Filo is a nasty striker. He's got a nice double jab, and then he's got really nice kicks as well. He'll kick your body, legs, head, and then he'll work the legs with inside and outside kicks. His problem is he just throws 1 strike at a time, and he's very, very hittable. Very hittable. Michel Pajeda, you know him as the really flashy, ton of fun guy. He's doing wild flips and spins and swirls, tons of kicks. He's got good power. He used to have cardio issues, but you see here he's coming off 2 decision wins in a row. His cardio has seemed to serve him well recently, and he's tamed some of the craziness. So I like Michel Pajeda to win this fight. $9,100, that I don't know, because I do think he's way better, should probably dominate. I don't know if he'll be able to finish Filo. So Hani Barcelos, I'm almost positive will finish Victor Henry. I don't know if Michel Pajeda is going to be able to finish Filo, because although he's stupid hittable, he's really, really tough and has a really good chin. But if we look at some points here, so 91 in that decision against Niko Price, because he had 3 takedowns, a ton of control time, and a ton of strikes. So it actually could look very similar to this fight here, because Niko Price is also very tough. In this decision, only 62 points. He also had 2 takedowns, but not nearly as many strikes. So I'm not sure what to do with Michel Pajeda yet. Honestly, it could look like either one of these fights. I do think there'll be some takedowns. It's just a matter of how many strikes does he get out there and what's that control time like, because the significant strikes is the difference, and the control time is the difference between 62 points and 91 points. Literally double the strikes, double the control time changes everything. So I'm not 100% positive what to do. I do think Michel Pajeda absolutely 100% wins that fight. Then we have Rodolfo Vieira. He's fighting Wellington Turman. Rodolfo Vieira is a good-sized favorite here. He's a nasty grappler. He's like a world-level jiu-jitsu guy. He's freaking massive. He's jacked. He has had major cardio issues in the past, and that's what happened here in this loss. He fought Fluffy Hernandez, gassed harder than I've ever seen any human being gas in the history of anything, and then he was submitted in the second round, and it was really embarrassing. He did put up 32 points because he dominated the first round. 4 takedowns, lots of control time, like total domination, until he basically died of exhaustion and then was submitted. If we look at his wins, honestly, some of these are mismatches, though. Pajeda, Safarov, Dustin Stoltzfus is actually a pretty good fighter, but, jiu-jitsu-wise, he's not really a good jiu-jitsu guy. So these are sort of mismatches, and he did score well in those wins. 84 in a late submission against Stoltzfus, which is surprisingly low because he had 3 takedowns and there was a submission finish, and he only scored 84. If we take a look at Wellington Turman, his opponent, so Wellington Turman is also a nasty grappler. He's got good striking. He has nowhere near the raw power that Rodolfo Vieira has, nowhere near it. And his takedowns probably are more technically sound, but Rodolfo Vieira is such an animal, he can do whatever he wants with takedowns. So if we look at Wellington Turman, he scored 74 in that win against Sam Alvey. And I'm just trying to look at decision wins with takedowns, because I think that's his path to victory. 73 against Perez, 45 in a loss against Robertson. So I think if Wellington Turman can get the takedowns, weather an early storm, he could actually beat an exhausted Rodolfo Vieira. So I'm not going to spend the $9,000 on Rodolfo Vieira, because I actually think he finds a way to lose this fight. I think cardio is going to be the problem. With that being said, I'm not going to blame anybody who's going to take a world-level jiu-jitsu guy, nicknamed Black Belt Hunter, against a black belt who's sort of struggled a little bit in the UFC. So I think Wellington Turman wins. I don't know if I'm going to have Wellington in my lineup or not, because although there's good value at $7,400, this is a tough fight. But I'm definitely not going to spend the $9,000 on Rodolfo Vieira personally. Then we have Tony Gravely. Spoiler alert, 100% will have Tony Gravely in my lineup. Nasty grappler, nasty wrestler, and that's all he wants to do is just wrestle. Like, there's no secrets to what his game plan is going to be. It's wrestle, 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 shoot a million takedowns, continue to wrestle. He has on top tons of ground and pound. He's not really looking for submissions. He's just looking to elbow you in the mouth and get you out of there, knock you up, bloody you up. His issue, though, is if you look at his record, is 21-7. 7 losses, 6 of them are by submission. 5 of them are submission losses. 5 of them. And he's fighting Simon Oliveira, who's a nasty grappler, a solid BJJ guy. He's always got something in his hands. He's always working from his guard. His striking is okay. He tends to overreact to some stuff. And when he overreacts, then Tony Gravely will be able to take him down. So I like Tony Gravely to win this fight. But the biggest concern here is, can Simon Oliveira catch him in a submission? Because he's a nasty grappler. Tony Gravely has been submitted 5 times before. Oliveira has submitted 11 people. But let's look at this. 4 takedowns, 7 takedowns, 5 takedowns. Even in this loss, he scored 46 points and he was submitted. So I do like Tony Gravely to have a similar performance to this here. 7 takedowns, 86 significant strikes, a bunch of control time, and 110 points. I think it's something similar to this. He may get a KO or TKO, but I think it's something similar to how he beat DeFreitas. I think there's so many takedowns there and a bunch of control time. But let's take a quick look. Actually, Simon Oliveira is making his UFC debut, so there's not going to be any stats on him. Now, Contender Series doesn't show up in DraftKings. Let's take a look at Kay Hanson. Kay Hanson is short, strong as hell, and she is a grappler. I keep saying that she comes in like Mike Tyson because when she marches forward across the cage, she comes in like this, big heavy weaves, hands up, and just throws bombs. And that's just there to close the distance so she can push you against the cage, drop down to a leg, try to pick you up, try to slam you, and work her jiu-jitsu. If you look at the Corey McKenna fight, this loss here, it was similar. She did get a few takedowns, but she struggled on her feet. And she's fighting Jasmine Jazadovicius, who has really good striking, really good hips as far as jiu-jitsu and wrestling is concerned. And then she's got her own solid jiu-jitsu. So I actually think Jasmine Jazadovicius wins this fight. But if we look at Kay Hanson in the UFC, you know, she did 78 points here. She had 2 takedowns in her loss. She's got one single game plan. Come forward, throw heavy, work a takedown, and work her jiu-jitsu. Her jiu-jitsu is pretty good. Let's take a look at Jasmine. Yeah, these Contender Series fights don't show up. But Jasmine has solid striking. She's got no power whatsoever, but she's got real solid volume in her striking. And I mentioned her hips are good. She'll tie you up in a clinch, throw big heavy knees, and then work a takedown. Her takedowns are not very good, but if it creates a scramble, her hips are so good, she'll still end up on top in the scramble. So I like Jasmine to win this fight, which means I'm not spending the $8,800 on Kay Hanson, and I will probably spend the $7,400 on Jasmine. I think there's better value. Then we have Matt, the Steamroller Fravola, and he is fighting Gennaro Valdez. Matt Fravola is the favorite here at $8,700. He's an incredibly tough wrestler. He never stops coming forward. He does have technical striking, but that doesn't stop him from just charging forward and throwing absolute bombs and just sloppy spinning back fists. Gennaro Valdez is incredibly well-rounded. He's mostly a grappler, but he has no issues getting into a slugfest. His striking can be wild, but he's fun, and he knows what he wants to do in the grappling. Where Matt Fravola gets suckered into a slugfest, Gennaro Valdez will not. He will not. So let's take a look here. Matt Fravola, obviously, he was on the wrong side of Terrence McKinney's UFC debut and that knockout. Literally scored 0 points. It was like at 20 seconds or something absurd. But in the fights where he can get some takedowns and can put something together, 75 points, 85 points, he does pretty well, but he doesn't do much with the takedowns, which is why the scoring is a bit low. But let's look at Gennaro. Damn it, no points. But if we look at his stats, which I have here, he had, because it's Contender Series, he had 4 takedowns in less than 6 minutes in that Contender Series win. And if you watch him, he's all about one thing, which is get it to the ground, get it to the ground. I'll throw wild, but I want to get it to the ground. I love Gennaro Valdez at $7,500. I think he will get it to the ground, and I think he'll control from there. I think he'll score a ton of points. I like Gennaro Valdez to win that fight. Now let's take a look at Said Nurmagomedov. He's fighting Cody Staman. Said Nurmagomedov, he's not related to any of the other Nurmagomedovs, and he doesn't fight anything like them either. He's a striker. He is a striker, and he's a good striker at that. He throws a lot of flashy stuff. He does a lot of really fun things on his feet. He's not the most high-volume guy, but he is versatile, and he's impressive. He has a nice striking differential of 5-2, so he's hitting his opponents 5 times for every 2 strikes that come back his way. Cody Staman, his opponent, is really well-rounded. He's a wrestler, so he wrestled in high school. He also wrestled in college, and he's been boxing since he's 16 years old, so he's pretty technical. He sets everything up well, and he has a solid pace, but he doesn't really have any power, so he's not really threatening the finish. Let's take a look at Said. 122 points in the KO, 107 points in the KO, 69 in a decision, and that's because there's not really any grappling, right? A decision for him is just a whole bunch of striking. He's $8,600. I like Cody Staman in this fight, and Cody Staman is a very affordable $7,600. I love him in this fight because, yes, he is coming off 2 losses in a row, but Dvalishvili's a beast. The Rivera fight was interesting, but I do think he'll be able to take Nurmagomedov down. And when he is able to take people down, 84 points, 68 in a draw here. 68 is brutal because he had 5 takedowns, which should have scored really well. Add 3 to that, or 30 to that, should have been 98. I do like Cody Staman to win this fight. I think a lot of people are dogging him. A lot of people aren't fans of his in this matchup, but I think he's tough enough, gritty enough, and animalistic enough to get some of those takedowns, ride it out, and beat up Said Nurmagomedov. So $7,600. It's not the worst price in the world for an underdog, especially a wrestler underdog, because then they can rack up some points with some takedowns. Then we have the co-main event, Brandon Moreno, and he is fighting Davison Figuereto. This is their 3rd fight, and let's look at the last 2. He scored 97 in their second fight, but he did win by submission, and then 80 in a draw. If you remember, that was a draw because a point was taken away from Davison Figuereto, so the fight was a draw. But Figuereto won that fight. The only reason it was a draw is because a point was taken away. And even then, it was a majority draw. So 2 judges saw it as a draw. 1 judge still said, even with the point deduction, I think Figuereto won this fight. So it's tricky because the second fight, Figuereto looked like trash. Brandon Moreno dominated and ended up with a submission. I do think Figuereto, he's been vocal about it. His Instagram is telling, has taken his weight very seriously in this fight. And I think Figuereto, in shape, ready to go, without cardio issues, wins. He's the better fighter. I think he wins. Brandon Moreno, really well-rounded, a ton of fun, very good at creating scrambles and staying busy. Figueredo's got nasty power. He's nasty on the ground as well. His cardio is his biggest issue. Let's take a look at Figuereto. I mean, Brandon Moreno scores well in his fights. These are 3-round fights. He's scoring well. But let's take a look at Figuereto. Figueredo's a killer, man. So, yes, this was a draw, 68 points. Okay. He scored fewer points, but that was because of the takedowns. And then in the loss, he scored 20. Fine. But let's go scroll back. Sub, KO, sub. And let's look at the decision. His lone decision, 81 points because he had 2 takedowns, a knockdown. And this is a 3-round fight we're talking about, 124. I don't think there's a finish, so I'm going to ignore those. Let's go to the decision, 45 because there's a takedown at some points. Listen, I like Figuereto to win the fight. Last time, everybody got burned because everybody doubled up. The first fight scored really well, except there was a draw. If you give somebody the 30 points, it scored incredibly well. So everybody doubled up the second fight thinking like, okay, these guys are going to go at it again. It's going to be another war, except there'll be a winner. We're going to do well. And then Figuereto was submitted. So, I like Figuereto. I'm not going to double this fight up, even though I do think it's a war. I think it's closer to the first fight than the second. I like Figuereto. I'm going to spend the money. But again, I'm not going to fault anybody who wants to spend the money on Brandon Moreno because he is also an animal. And he puts up solid points because look at the takedowns. He has no problem with takedowns or reversals because he has no problem scrambling on the ground and he's got high volume. So, even in a loss, Moreno would score better than Figuereto would in a loss. But I do think Figuereto, with his weight under control, wins the fight. And we got the main event. We've got Ciryl Gane versus Francis Ngannou. Ciryl Gane, super technical. Not a ton of power, but super technical, incredible footwork, and a kickboxer. His opponent, Francis Ngannou, a ton of power, also a kickboxer, and really solid wrestling defense as of late. And Ciryl Gane, he's a decision king. Like, yes, he stopped Derek Lewis. He did stop a very old DeSantos. He is a decision king, and he has a ton of significant strikes. He had takedowns against Rosenstruck and Dontel Mays, but that's basically it. But the takedowns are there, and he may use them against Francis Ngannou. So control time is not typically a factor. It's really just strikes with him. And he does put up okay points, 90 points. That's pretty good. You know, you're spending $8,500. If you think he wins, you absolutely should have him in your lineup, because if you think he wins, it's going to be 5 rounds. He'll put up consistent points. I personally like Francis Ngannou quite a bit. The problem is, I don't know if I'm going to go as far as picking him, because he hates the UFC. He hates his contract. Winning this fight only extends that contract at a price that he already says he doesn't want to fight for. So there's so much going on. I don't know what his head state is like, because obviously you want to win your fight, but winning the fight screws him contractually. He's no longer a free agent if he wins the fight and keeps the belt. But look, I mean, look at the points. He's killing everybody. Knockout, first round, second round here. He's scoring 1 million points in those. He's really only been to, I mean, 2 decisions, and they were both losses. This was one of the most embarrassing losses in the history of time. And then he only scored 11 against Stipe as well. So, you know, I got to go with Cyril Gane here, because of all the stuff going on in Francis's head and going on with Francis in life, and how much he hates his job right now. But I do think Francis Ngannou is honestly more set up to win this fight. He hits way harder. He also has great footwork. He's got incredible wrestling defense. I think Francis Ngannou is probably the better fighter. Cyril Gane's got the better movement. Cyril Gane's the more technical kickboxer, but I think Francis Ngannou is the better fighter, certainly the most dangerous fighter. But if you have him in your lineup, that means you're just chasing a knockout, because he's only been in 2 decisions. Both of them are losses, and he scored like no points in them. So you're expecting a knockout if you have him. So pick your side on that one. I'm not going to be able to change anybody's mind. Anyway, then we got Vanessa Demopolis, and she is fighting Silvana Gomez Juarez. We've broken down this fight several times. It's been booked and rebooked a few times. But Vanessa Demopolis has a ton of volume on her feet, no power whatsoever, no wrestling, but very good jiu-jitsu. Her opponent has good power in her hands, good striker, not really looking to get it to the ground. So I imagine they're going to stay on their feet. I think Vanessa Demopolis is going to do a lot of dancing around, a lot of touching and going. If it does hit the ground, I think Vanessa has the edge there. Vanessa is my pick to win the fight, but $8,300 is a lot of money to be spending. A lot of money to be spending. Their opponent's $8,100, so it's basically even money. Or sorry, $7,900. So it's close to even, not quite. Both of them are coming off losses in their UFC debuts, very different losses. I think Gomez is the more dangerous fighter. She's got the upside for stoppage, but I think Vanessa Demopolis wins and could put up some okay points with some decent volume. And then the last fight we have, Michael Morales making his UFC debut against Trevin Giles. Michael Morales is a national champion Muay Thai fighter, a national champion wrestler in Ecuador, and he's pretty good everywhere. Trevin Giles is an athlete. He's incredibly athletic. He has a really good jab, and he's a grappler. He makes poor decisions at times, but his athleticism has gotten him wins that he shouldn't have gotten, like against Delidze, for example. But Michael Morales is definitely the better, more talented fighter, but it's his UFC debut. I think Michael Morales wins the fight. I will have Michael Morales in my lineup at the $8,200. But Trevin Giles, man, like I said, he ekes these out. He sneaks these wins out. The win against Delidze, he shouldn't have won that fight. The win against Lewis, that KO was pretty impressive. The win against Krause, I mean, it's just a ton of strikes. He's a grappler. He doesn't really get it to the ground, but he's got an awesome jab. He manages distance pretty well, and he's stupid athletic. My biggest issue, Michael Morales would be just a guaranteed pick for me, except he can be a little slow to start. And he's a little gun-shy at times. And that worries me, because if Trevin just gets in his face, puts on a pace, stays athletic, it could give Michael Morales some trouble, especially in his UFC debut. But Michael Morales is 12-0 with 10 stoppages. He's got all the tools. I got to trust that he's going to show up on fight night. I like Michael Morales. He'll be in my lineup. Trevin Giles will not. That's the full card, guys. Let me know what you think, who will be in your lineup. And don't forget to join our free DraftKings League at wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Join, become a member of this channel so that if you win the DraftKings League, I have to send you $50. I'll see you on Saturday.